Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of the Wellness Tribe podcast. It's a podcast that talks about everything wellness. We don't want to do like theoretical things like use big words, OCD, bipolar, and whatever. We just want to break down the daily occurrences and how that affect your well-being. Your well-being is how you sleep, how you eat, how you talk, but not just that also, but how the state of our nation. And so we want to have like really current affairs conversations that are centered around demystifying this entire big thing that is mostly seen as a white man's thing, the wellness tribe. And therefore, to help me make sense of this, ladies and gentlemen, I have got two experts here with me. On my left is Mr.
Peter Mbuga.
Who is that?
I'm a counseling psychologist. Yeah. I normally help people deal with especially the big emotions like anger, grief, and such.
And on my right here is the beautiful
Laura Odera.
Okay.
I am a certified nutritionist. I deal with gut health, weight management, and malnutrition.
All right. So you hear that introduction already tells you what we're doing, but sometimes it sounds too abstract. And so the KCSE exams, the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education exams, were released about 2 weeks ago. There was an uproar in the country. Then a young girl did a viral video on TikTok where she was basically saying that her life was completely over. She got a C plane, but she was working really, really hard.
A C plus. And I don't think I want to do anything else with my life, so I don't really have anything to live for anymore. I have social media, but I don't know if that can take me, through life. I really do hope and pray that my social media thing will really carry me on, but I just don't know what to do right now. I'm trying so hard to fight the suicidal thoughts, but I don't know. I've always just based my worth on my grades, and now that I failed.
But then secondly, we have the video that followed. She was saying the way the parents sat her down and talked to her and made her see like really her life was not really wasted after getting a C plane. And she said she's going to start this movement of young people to really change how we do exams in this country. But I was really thinking that she was lucky, and out of the 800,000 students who sat for KCSE, she's just one who found support and found really supportive parents. But my question is, how about the over 700,000 who got a C plane and below, and their lives seems to be completely decided, but just by one examination alone? And to help me make sense of this, Peter, what is it about exams in this country that is so... it's like a madness in this country? We wait for exams to be announced, and we run to high performers and we tell their stories, and then we ignore completely. By the way, in these past exams, over 400,000 people got a D plus and below. Mm-hmm. So what is it about this country with exams? What is it? Is there a psychological problem we have and our obsession with exams, especially KCSE and KCPE?
I would say yes and no in a way. Yeah. Because even when we look at our education system, it was colonial in nature, and it was just meant to churn out workers. Okay, but now as time has grown, of course there are those who are quite who have better facilities, and are able to do a lot of things. If you look at the other side, I think 80% of the people who do those exams are rural, and rural have very poor infrastructure. They have a lot of quite distressing sort of facilities. So we have a big chunk of our whole. I think we think that we are motivating people, but apparently I think we depress a lot more.
We depress people a lot more. Laura, how did you feel when your KCSE results came out? I bet now that you're a nutritionist, you must have done really well, and were you carried on the shoulders like we see, in the schools and stuff?
So when my results came out, I was quite nervous.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my parents were also nervous as well. So their emotions were rubbing off on me, definitely. So they made the stress worse, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and when results are announced, everyone is nervous. Parents have expectations. We also have expectations for ourselves, and that can take a toll on our health. Yeah, can take a toll on your psychological health, can take a toll in your social and physical health. And when you define health, you define it as a state of complete psychological, social, and physical state. Yeah, so definitely when something takes a toll on your psychological health, it will end up affecting your physical health and your social life. So when you look at that video, for example, yeah, she was performing well entirely, and you find that definitely her parents were expecting better performance, yeah, because of her previous performances.
Yeah.
She was also expecting to perform well, so that shocked them, the results, yeah. So definitely, I'm sure, 100% sure, during that period when she was, let's say, in a stressful situation, she had problems. She could not eat. She was not motivated to do anything at all. Yeah. So results are really nerve-wracking in general.
But when the results came out, how did you feel?
But when my results came out, because they were good, I'm not going to lie, they were good.
Okay.
I was happy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
But I remember
happy.
you told me a very interesting story of the difference between your KCPE results and your
Yes.
KCSE results. Like there were 2 worlds apart.
They
in
were
terms
2 worlds apart.
Yeah.
For my KCPE, I felt like I failed.
Okay.
Yeah, just like her. I felt like I did not perform well. I felt like I failed my parents, first of all, because for him, or let me say for both my parents, they had sacrificed a lot for me to get to where I was at that time. And my marks did not reflect that according to them and according to me. Yeah, so it was so bad that, you see, I ended up having a nervous breakdown. I ended up,
really?
yeah, I ended up losing weight, so much weight. Yeah, I ended up, it was just bad in general.
Yeah. Peter, I remember when my KCSE came and I took my results to my dad in Dandora Phase 1. I remember he said, "You are a bright boy. You just need to read a bit more." Like he was surprised by my results because I wasn't really reading. But later on I realized that I'd actually been living with ADHD for a very long time. It's attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder. Do you think results are predictable, that we can tell that, okay, based on this child's environment, they're going to get this type of results, or this is how their life is going to go? Or is it just something that is like vibes and inshallah, like let's just try and move on and go and see how it will come out?
Okay, what do you call it? I guess we are all different, and that's what makes us special. Because you can go through the worst kind of situation and still perform well. But I think we would call you an outlier based on the education system in Kenya. I was thinking about this lady, and I think Laura talked about expectations. I think the biggest problem is that it's been drummed in us that you can only succeed if you go to university. That it's not success unless you are admitted to university. And I think that's what drives everybody into a frenzy around examination time. So I have a parent who I'm very close to who's totally depressed that her child got a B, not an A. Of course, going back to your question, it's predictable. You can predict from history. Like there are people you would be shocked if they didn't get an A.
Okay.
But still coming back to the statistics, A's are very few. So most of us should be ready for B's and C's. But because of all this frenzy, we are all expecting something we don't really even qualify for. Okay, this girl was saying she was expecting a B, but from what she told us, she's never been above a C.
Oh, really?
From the video, she said she got a C in mock.
She got a C plus in mock, but before that she was getting like B's. But mock is very tough. So when you get a C plus in the mocks, you are playing a B minus, a B plane thereabout.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was sort of going backwards myself, rather than looking at this situation as at that time. Of course, it's a crisis.
Yeah.
That's where you'd have the suicidality. We call it suicidality, having suicidal thoughts. It's easy to have in a crisis situation.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't think the problem is at that point, okay? Because where have we gotten this perfectionism that
Exactly.
we must have A's, we must have B's, and all that. That anything that failure is fatal.
Fatal, yeah.
Yeah.
And failure in one thing only.
And on one
thing only,
yeah. So I think there's a problem with parenting.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I would address parenting.
Parenting. That's very interesting because then you find that some of these parents are putting their own expectation and their own inadequacies on their children, or perhaps they're only, like for example, Laura, there's an entire lady, Owira Njiro, who does amazing work called Food for Education. And I think we underestimate the impact of nutrition on performance. Maybe
Yeah,
perhaps
we
you
do.
can break down for us in a very simple language.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Because nutrition and academic performance, they are very related. And you find that it starts in the early stages of life.
Okay.
Yeah, before conception.
Like what a mother eats when
what a mother eats
Yeah.
when she's pregnant, what a mother eats when she's lactating, and also how you're feeding the child as the child is growing up. So in the early stages, if the child is not being fed well, if the dietary habits of the child are poor, it will definitely affect later life circumstances, including education.
Really?
Yeah, including education. So you find that, let me say in Kenya, the school feeding programs, you find that in public schools and private schools located in the slums, the feeding programs are so bad. These kids eat the same thing every day. I went to a public school.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember we used to eat something called keroma. It was a mixture of boiled maize and yellow peas on a daily basis. Yeah, so if that is not nutritious, eating the same thing daily, it is not good at all.
Yeah.
It will not help you in any way. It will help you with the energy.
Yeah.
Because it's carbohydrates. The energy, you'll go to class, you'll be energetic and all that. But in supplying all the different types of nutrients that your body needs to develop, because you're a child, you're developing, it will not provide all the nutrients you need. And especially nutrients such as omega-3 found in fish. This is a vital nutrient, important for brain development, for cognitive function, to help the child be more focused in class. So the feeding program in school, that is the first thing that people should actually focus on and focus on how to improve. Then another thing, let me talk about the home setting now. So you find that there's actually a study by World Vision International. And the study found that 1 in 3 children in Kenya are malnourished.
What's to be malnourished? That sounds like a really big
So
word.
when I talk about malnourished, there are 2 types of malnourishment. There's overnourished kids. Those are kids who are obese. They eat a lot. Then we have undernourished kids. Those are kids who do not get enough meals. Maybe they go to sleep hungry, they skip meals. So 1 in 3 are actually undernourished in Kenya. So we have more undernourished kids than overnourished. So undernourishment is linked to poor cognitive function. There's lack of focus in class. There's poor attention. You're a child, but your memory is already starting to fade. You can't even solve problems. Your problem-solving skills are already affected. So things like mathematics, you can't even focus properly. So nutrition is very vital for academic performance.
Peter, the story of what she's saying is the story of every Kenyan home. I did a certain research in a place called Nyatike in Migori County, where children under 5 were actually experiencing a stunted growth. It was an EU-funded project. But we don't look at the home setting and the impact it has on a child's psyche. And these parents who create that same home environment for their children, the ones who expect them to bring results. Like, for example, you find that partners are fighting in their house. The children are seeing. But they're not thinking, what is the impact of this on my child's development? These parents are absentee parents, but they expect their children to nini. What is it about us, and could it be that perhaps our own inadequacies and the fact that we can't fix our own stuff as adults, imperfections, then we wanna sort of like project them on our children and force them to bring miracles while we all along knew that the environment was not good?
I'm not sure we recognize that. We have that self-awareness that our own past affects our children
Present
somehow. And I have many examples of people. For example, I have clients who tell me, who are, especially in marriage, couple situations, they already have problems in their communication, in their communication skills and all that. They're coming because they're not doing well as a couple. And when I dig a little of their history, I can tell they came from dysfunctional families. For example, there was this lady who was always fighting with her husband, and when I checked back, I just asked about her siblings. You see that two of my siblings have been to rehabs, for example. That tells me that there was something really wrong in that home. And that she's going to take that sort of baggage into her marriage, okay, and harm the kids in the process, okay, especially that squabbling. What does it do to the? It creates such an insecure environment. Kids start wondering, when are these people going to divorce? As you know, what we call trauma in adults. For example, trauma in adulthood is something that threatens your life. We have in psychology other things. We call them adverse childhood experiences, which are as bad as a life-threatening thing for a child. For example, lack of love, neglect, okay, parents fighting within in the family, and that's where that's where your kids start being narcissists. For example, the personality disorders come at that stage. And the same case I was talking about, there's this lady, and for me it's a red flag. This lady comes and tells me, I found the man of my dreams. He has good income, he has what? He has everything. And then I ask her, okay, tell me about him. She tells me he went to boarding school in standard 3. I say, what? That is a problem already. That's a big problem already, because this person was actually neglected by his family. Where will he get? He was unloved.
But Peter, let me ask you, why don't we talk about these things? Because you meet somebody in the city of Nairobi, they're looking nice, they're driving a good vehicle, they're living in a good neighborhood, but we don't see the child in that person who's now an adult.
Yes.
And we somehow expect these things to work out. And so, for example, you find one dysfunctional person marrying a dysfunctional person, they're from a dysfunctional family, a child is born in that family, then this child, we expect this child to perform and to excel. But then the problem also I have in this country is that we have like sort of like silo conversation. Like, for example, this mental health conversation that we have in Kenya, it's mostly medical. Oh, bipolar, nini, which is nice, but only a very small percentage of people will ever be diagnosed with a mental health disorder.
Absolutely.
But the biggest conversation in this country is, what type of homes are our children growing in?
Yes.
What type of food are they eating? And how is that affecting their life outcomes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I have a question. Do you think, for example, you mentioned two broken people build a family. Do these people know that they have issues? Do they know that they are broken?
They don't know, because we once did a small research in some of this church-based counseling, It's called church-based counseling.
Yeah.
You know, they don't even have like any psychological component of it. Like, for example, do like a basic thing like attachment theory. Like, what is your attachment style?
Yes.
Like, let's look at your childhood. Let's look at your
Yeah.
advanced childhood experience. So imagine you've gone through like a 10-step marital program in church and you've been baptized. Okay, now you may kiss the bride. But instead of saying you may now kiss the bride and the groom, I think we should say, no, you two dysfunctional people need to kiss each other. Start a dysfunctional life.
I have one interesting example of this of this family.
Yeah.
That the husband is a total drunk. He can hardly hold a job. His son is also in and out of rehabs. The best child in that family, quite prayerful and all that. The hope of the family is sent to a boarding school. Do you know she was sent straight back? Yeah, because she was so militant, causing issues there and all that. She was causing, what do you call them, riots already.
What's wrong with riot? Teachers are not working. Let's burn down this system.
No, well, as the head teacher, and this from one child is already causing so much problem. She was expelled. But what am I trying to say?
Yeah.
This is a damaged child, and you're sending them to society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll just be further damaged because the society is not ready to deal.
So that sounds like we people who are dysfunctional should never get married. Children who perhaps have grown in dysfunctional homes ought not to go out, and we can just... Is that how it sounds?
I think we should just make these things more public. Yeah.
Yes.
People should now become aware of mental issues,
Yes.
their backgrounds, and how it can affect their future and their children. Yeah. It's just an issue of awareness. People are ignorant at the moment. Yeah.
And couples, as far as I'm concerned, should be should go for parenting class. At this time and age, there's enough information, and they should actually be given what do you call them? Parenting class, because parenting is a serious business. It's not like this lady. Was it a lady who sang that? Mtoto akizaliwa anakuja na sahani yake. You can't work like that. You have to plan for a child. Otherwise, you'll just ignore them from your own trauma. You learned from your father to just keep mum when you're angry.
Silent treatment.
The silent treatment. And you pass it to your children. Your children don't know when they're doing right or wrong because there's no conversation from their parents. That's what they learned.
And then they go to school and then they meet teachers who come from the very same backgrounds. And then these teachers abuse them. By the way, I remember some of the most fundamental, like what changed my life in primary school was one teacher, by the way, let me big him up. This teacher used to keep for me bread and tea in his office. And he'd call me, of course, because I was performing well then. But when I went to high school, we just had this really, really mean teacher. One day, he accused us of smoking weed with my cousin and saying, I saw you guys outside your compound smoking weed. Well, that time, I'm in the city here with my dad in Nairobi, and all that, you know. So this guy was just like, after, and you know that how it developed, a child begins to develop a negative attitude towards education, So I think TSC ought to also think about what they're going to do to their teachers and the trauma the teachers carry.
Yes. I remember in a few years back, I was in a program which went to government rehabs. What are they called? The Dagoretti children rehabs, where they put
children. There's one here in Lower Kabete.
Yes.
Terrible place.
So we had to go and give psychosocial skills to the teachers in those institutions. To show them how they can bring up these children who are in conflict with the law in a way that makes them even want to study, make them not want to run away. So, and we can see even our teachers out here, they need a lot of psychosocial help.
Exactly.
I mean, education.
Yeah.
So they're the same teachers mistreating our child.
Yeah.
What about the child? They're also parents.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of information that people don't have. So trauma is just being propagated. And then with the situation, with Maisha being very hard, nobody wants to deal with a problem child because we need patience. Children will be children, so we need patience.
Yeah.
So they come up with all these violent ways of dealing with them, and we're just harming generations of children.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about teachers, it reminds me of an incident which happened in primary school. So the first thing was we used to sit according to our performance, the seating arrangement. Yeah. So number one, number two, the last person is sitting at the farthest corner of the class. So you see, that already is demeaning to them.
Serious humiliation,
Then,
actually.
yeah, it's humiliating for that student sitting at the farthest corner. So then one day a teacher comes to class and he points at that student, asks him to spell your name. Can you spell your name? And the teacher knows very well this student cannot spell his name. And you find that he could not do it. Then guess what happens next? All of us end up laughing at him as a class. You know, we were young, we did not know better at that point. So I can imagine how that impacted his life, until now. So I think teachers think that criticism and hostility is
Will
good.
sort out.
It will make you stronger, it will empower you to do better, but it's actually the other way around. Yeah.
And it goes back to that story I was telling you about a standard 3 going to boarding school.
Yeah.
You're throwing them into the wild. Where they don't have the support of the family. There's nobody covering their back. So they go very fearful. A lot of my clients are people who've gone through such things. They've come up with anxiety in their lives. They suffer depression at very early stages. They go into substance and drug abuse.
And self-harm.
Self-harm.
Self-harm,
Absolutely.
So as we come to an end, because I think this is just the beginning really to expand. So do you think, Laura, if we ban announcement of results, that sort of can bring a bit of peace so that we just say, because, okay, why don't we announce other things? Like, for example, why don't we announce how many people have gotten jobs? Like this year, the government will announce 1,000 Kenyans have been employed. We don't announce that. But why is our obsession with exams? What about university exams? How about college exams? So if we just treat it normally, do you think this pressure for children to perform and to, do you think it might help?
It might help. Well, not entirely, because you see, as a parent, you'd want to know how your child is performing. But generally, as a country, it will help so many students. They will end up feeling like they're not, cast out. They will not feel like they're different from their peers who are performing better. For example, the new system, the new education system, CBC, I think it's better than 844. Because there's no result announcement like in 844. They only give you the statistics of maybe people who have performed better, but they don't say that this number of people have gotten A, this number of people have gotten Bs. They don't come to the television saying that, even mentioning names. So CBC is better than 844, and I think people should embrace it more because it will help when it comes to the announcements.
Peter, what do you think?
It would help. But looking at, you see, we are looking at the top A's. Did we get the A's? Did we get the what? And ignoring the 50, 60, 70% that didn't qualify. So when you ignore these others, you actually what do you call it? You're muddying the water. So that you're not focusing on why are all these people then failing? Who is supposed to be addressing this issue? So for me, I would rather we announce the grades per county. This county performed this way. I mean, rank the counties because the counties now are nearer to their schools. and maybe might motivate them to start doing something about those areas which are not doing that well.
I think so. And we actually sent this video out to ask people to give us their feedback. And Tukumburu of International Commission of Juries says, this is really sad. My advice is that you cannot assess the brilliance of a fish by asking it to climb a tree. Neither can you assess the brilliance of a monkey by asking it to swim. We are all gifted differently, and a letter on a paper in form of an academic grade should not determine your worth. She does not shine any less because she scored a C grade. Postscript, an A is just the beginning, and an E does not mean the end. It's fantastic. Caroline McCanna said that Caroline McCanna says that there are like many, she's giving up so fast. If she knew the road ahead is not based on grades, but on a positive mindset, this culture of grades is the real problem, the culture of grades. And let's talk about that. And then she says, there are 9 types of intelligence. Why as a people do we confine our children into one? Then I asked Caroline, whoa, never seen it like this before. And why do we banish our children to terrible self-worth using only one measure of intelligence? Caroline McCanna says, because it's a reflection of us. If we don't accept our own inadequacies, how will we teach our children to accept theirs? And finally, there's a lady called Miriam Mambo. Mostly we were getting feedback from ladies. Miriam says here that that worth is inherent, that your worth is not determined by the grade you get. And I think there's a problem we have in this country of assigning worth based on what you have. I think it's a human problem. It's capitalistic, but your worth is inherent. So Peter, as we come to an end, and Laura, I need us to make a very practical way forward. How do we begin to practically change this country using the school and the home as a basis of transformation moving forward?
For me, as I said earlier, parenting styles.
Okay.
There are several parenting styles. There is the authoritative, there is the authoritarian, and then there is the permissive, and then there is the neglectful. Yeah. So you will find this lady we are talking about is probably from an authoritarian sort of family. Yeah. Because an authoritative family would sets rules, because we all want our children to mature, and caringly they set the high standards, but they also care and take care of the child emotionally. Yeah. But you'll find authoritarian parents, we will tell you it's this way or the highway. Okay? So you'll find that the authoritarian, you'll have children who have very low self-esteem. Yeah? Because they have learned that I'll only be loved if I follow certain rules, if I perform in a certain way, yeah, as compared to authoritative sort of parenting, whereby I accept you. When you fail, you see, it's actually an inability to accept failure. We've not taught these children that failure is normal. Yeah. So an authoritative parent knows that the child will fail. So that's why they're not that strict. When they fail, at least they have discussions. How can you do better, instead of having harsh punishments as the authoritarian parent would have. So I'm saying we have information that can help change the narrative already. If our parents could change their parenting styles. And probably they just inherited that, because that's how they were dealt with by their parents. They're not doing any better. They're just doing the same thing. Okay. So parenting classes for parents would be a good start.
Okay. Laura?
So when we look at nutrition, this is a really it's a big topic to look at, because, for example, at a home setting, nutrition also depends on the economic status of the household. Yeah, so if someone is from a poor household, they can't really afford a lot. Yeah, they can't even afford to have enough meals, let alone a variety of meals to provide enough nutrients. Just the amount alone is hard for them. So economic status, inflation has affected even the health of the entire household, not just the kids. Yeah. So now these are things that the government should intervene. Yeah. But then intervening in the government, it's not really easy sometimes. Then when you look at the social setting, yeah, or the school setting, yeah, again, feeding programs are funded by the government.
Sometimes donors,
Yeah,
mostly.
sometimes donors, but even the donors, whatever they bring,
It's
as
usually uji and
yeah,
and,
uji. Yeah, and for example, what I told you were eating in primary school, those are from donors. Yeah, they were not really healthy. Yeah, so it's a challenge. It's a big challenge when you look at nutrition, because the parents need to be able to afford enough food for their kids. The government needs to introduce. They can even introduce something like a single fruit. Yeah, they should start small. For example, in the Moi days, there was milk. Yeah, we can even introduce just a single fruit a day, maybe a banana, an orange, and such things. Yeah, to improve the nutrition of our kids to enable peak performance. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for taking your time to listen to us. Really, our passion is very simple. How do we help you as an individual, as a community, and as a country to thrive using some of this knowledge that we have, psychology, nutrition, and all this really scientific work? How do we break them down in a way that can make meaning to your life, in your career, in your family, and generally as a country? And you can follow us, of course. Laura, we will put her title down there, and Peter,
Yeah.
but of course subscribe. But above all that, I need you guys to tell us exactly what type of topics you want us to talk about next time. Is it about the depression and the death by suicide in part of this country amongst men? What do you want us to talk about? Adios, until next time. This is the Wellness Tribe podcast, and may God bless you. Adios.